What's going on, guys? This is Angelo, just coming back with an update about my UCL thumb surgery. I've been getting a lot of responses on the video itself, a lot of views, and a lot of people messaging me about the surgery and my recovery. The most common thing that's been coming up is people are asking me if my thumb was swollen after the cast was taken off. The answer is no. My thumb, I can even feel it stop swelling about a week after the surgery when it was still in that plastic splint that they give you, not plastic, plaster splint. What happens is your doctor should be prescribing you anti-inflammatories. If he doesn't, you should be taking them on your own. It's pretty standard procedure for any surgery. There's going to be swelling. So in that case, if you're having swelling issues after the cast is taking off, your cast should only be on for about, I think, 4 or 5 weeks, then you need to go back to your specialist and they need to take a look at your thumb. Maybe it didn't heal right. Part of the problem with the UCL thumb is that it's a ligament that stabilizes your joint. It prevents your joint from hyperextending this way. This is the thumb that had the surgery. I'll get a close up there for you. You can see the scar. You can also see the scar tissue. It looks like a little bump in comparison. Here's my other thumb. It looks like that. You see the difference? A lot of scar tissue. Um, nice little V-shaped scar right there. And a lot of scar tissue. The scar tissue doesn't really hurt, but the most recent question I got was about the joint and whether or not I could bend it. Immediately after the cast was taken off, my entire hand was real stiff just because there wasn't a lot of blood flow. It was stuck in a cast for 5 weeks. It's natural. The most important part about the recovery for the surgery is after you're off the splint, you need to stay in a spica splint for 2 weeks. That regular splint that has that piece of plastic up here wraps around. Stay in that spica splint because you do not want to be pitching and gripping very long. It's a ligament. It needs to heal. Also keep in mind about the type of tear that you suffered. There's two types of tears that could happen in that ligament. The ligament that runs right here could either tear in half or it can rip from one side of each bone. It's on this side of the bone and this side of the bone. It can either rip from the bone or rip in half. My ligament was ripped in half, so my specialist told me after the surgery that all he did was stitch it together. He said it was a much faster recovery time, but that the ligament would still be a little bit more flexible. Case in point, this is what happens to my thumb. As you can see, it's much more flexible in that joint, which is not necessarily a good thing. It's not as stable than this one is. This one's, as you can see, a lot more stable. It just feels a lot more solid because the ligament hasn't been damaged. This one was torn in half, so all he could really do is stitch together. It was the quickest and fastest way. If it tears from one side of the bone, if it tears from this end or tears from that end, but the ligament's still intact, it just ripped from the bone, then they're going to have to put a pin in and kind of drill it back into the bone and have it heal that way. That's a much longer recovery time, but from what my surgeon told me was it was a much higher success rate because the actual ligament wasn't torn, it was just ripped off the bone. So they have to, mechanically drill it back into place using a pin that they'll eventually remove. So for anybody out there who's suffering from this, I got an email from somebody asking me if they recommended the surgery for their daughter. I always recommend the surgery. It's your thumb. You're going to be using it every day. It took me a month after the actual injury happened to get the surgery done. I went to work, I did everything, and I'm left-handed too, on this thumb, and it was very painful. And if you avoid the surgery, what will happen is you'll get arthritis. The swelling won't go down unless you really baby it and ice it, and they'll eventually have to take a tendon from another joint, most likely your wrist, to replace it, which is a much more intrusive surgery with a much larger and longer recovery time. So for anybody out there who is going through UCL thumb surgery or is going to, please take my advice. Take the surgery. Take your meds that they prescribe you. And if there's a problem once the cast comes off, if there's swelling, make sure to see your doctor and follow up. Also, don't rush it. It's a ligament injury. Um, my specialist, who happens to be a big UFC fan, when he found out that I injured it in my first fight, he was he was really interested. And once he took a look at it, he goes, "Well, I kind of wish you had just broken the damn thing because it would have been much easier to fix." So, you know, it's tough surgery. Make sure you recover well, take your meds, and don't rush it. And if you guys have any more questions, comment, share the video with anybody, or you can message me privately. I'd be more than happy to help. Thanks, guys, and take care.